It all started in 1122 in Aquitaine, France. I was born to William, Duke of Aquitaine, and the Duchess of Aquitaine. My mother died when I was young, and so my father was continuously looking for new wives. Though I loved my father dearly, he was not popular among the people of Aquitaine. William, Duke of Aquitaine, was very commanding and sometimes cruel in his ways. For example, one time my father offended the Pope with his crude attitude, and so he was banished from the church. This embarrassed our entire family as well as his associates. But if it wasn't for his commanding rule and tough ways, I may not have learned how to manage a kingdom and be tough in times of crisis, just like he did. I grew up in a childhood brimming with wealth. My younger sister Petronilla of Aquitaine and I had many pleasant times together in the castle of Aquitaine, frolicking in the orchards as well as whispering together on stormy nights. We were adorned with an abundance of riches and the many luxuries of my time. We were never lacking in silky dresses, delicious meals, or anything else we took a liking to. Maids tended our home and nearly raised my sister and I. There were many times in which the ladies of our household would share their wisdom and educate my sister and I on being ladylike. Personally, this was not my forte. Rather than needlepoint or stitching, I enjoyed horseback riding or getting lost in a book. As children, Petronilla and I were educated together by private tutors. According to our father, only the best was fit for his daughters. So during a time when education was directed towards the lucky ones, the people who could afford it, we were the lucky ones. I've since been considered very educated and enlightened compared to the other women of my time. Although living as a woman in an era dedicated to men, I was given many opportunities to have an influence on entire kingdoms and world conflict. I was the ruler of multiple European countries as well as the heiress of many riches. Though my life sounds decent to say the least, it was not always tranquil. I was married twice, once to the King of France and later to the King of England. I gave birth to nearly a dozen children and bear the title of the most wealthy and powerful woman in Europe. But by far the most heroic, audacious, and famous events of my life were my crusades. The religious and military crusades to the Holy Lands made me very well known. I was accountable for any issues along the long road of travel. My leadership throughout the voyages had a positive impact throughout the course of my existence, but however they also led to disastrous conflict. For one, many men often did not accept the idea of my leadership. On many occasions, people attempted to overthrow my power as a crusader and queen. My personal life consisted of conflict as well. During my late childhood, I was often sought out to marry by other rulers. Because of my arranged marriages with princes who became kings, I often did not love my husband as I should. My first arranged marriage was with Louis VII of France from 1137 to 1152, when I was still in my young teenage years. He was often violent, controlling, and involved in war. Though we did not always get along, we had children together. During this time, I was also crowned Queen of France. Together, my husband and I ruled France, and I must say we did a splendid job until our personal relationship started downhill and continued along that road, affecting our decisions as rulers. After 7 years of being married, I still had not birthed Louis VII of France a child, nor an heir to the throne of France. Finally, I gave birth to a beautiful child, though to Louis's disappointment, the child was not male or eligible to be his heir. Though prior to this challenge we had tension as being rulers of France, we eventually departed our separate ways, most likely for the better. My next husband was Henry II of England. We ruled England, and again I was crowned queen. I had even more children with Henry II of England, but over time our marriage lost its value as well. He had affairs with other women, and we had tough times regarding ruling a kingdom. I was held prisoner by my husband, Henry, and was not often allowed to visit my family. On his deathbed, Henry announced for my release, but his wish was not fully granted. In time, though, I managed to move on with my life. I endured challenging relationships with my family, such as with my former husbands as well as with my many children. A few of my sons were disloyal to the king, and betrayal brought them to face death. I overcame the barriers in my life, whether it was a book I couldn't manage to grasp, deciding where to distribute my wealth, or a son dishonoring the king. I grew and learned from my mistakes. I emerged a poised and powerful ruler, ready to take whatever came my way. As I grew and matured as a person and powerful figure, advancements in science and technology followed suit. An invention that I was familiar with was called the counterweight trebuchet. Like a catapult, it hurled large objects, such as stones, to destroy whatever lay in wait. The revolutionized counterweight trebuchet used weights and the force of gravity to propel the stones through the air. These contraptions were described to have first been used by crusaders like me during the 1120s. Another invention was of the glass mirror. first made by covering glass with lead and creating a reflection. I personally enjoy this invention, the ability to look at oneself and or use it as decoration. The reflective glass-surfaced mirror was popular exclusively among the ruling class, and so myself enjoyed the luxury of owning a mirror. I was a very wealthy person in Europe during my time. Being the daughter of a duke and duchess contributed to the large amount of money that I inherited. I was the older daughter of Aquitaine, therefore making me the heir of all my family's wealth. I have been described as the most wealthy and powerful woman of medieval times. During my time, money was made up solely of metal coins, such as gold, silver, and copper. The type of metal that the coin was made up of determined how much it was worth. During medieval times, the population of Europe grew, as did the trading system and economy. I was involved with the Crusades, and these also boosted trading. Crusades often helped to find new trade routes and carried vessels that brought goods from one place to another. During my time, crusaders and soldiers often wore armor for protection. A common piece of armor was an iron or bronze shirt made up of interlocking metal rings. The armed people also carried shields made from wood and leather and wore metal helmets. The shields were often oval-shaped and crafted very carefully. By using strong wood and covering it with leather, the shields were made. There were artistic metallic decorations around the shield, and metal lined the rims. The crusaders or soldiers often carried spears, swords, axes, or bows and arrows as weapons. All of the armor was crafted by hand, and often there was detail added by stitching or metal. I was a queen, crusader, heiress, as well as mother, and with these titles and responsibilities, I triumphed and struggled along the way. I had to raise my children, manage my wealth wisely, rule my kingdom justly, and lead my crusades to victory. I was a strong and authoritative woman. I tried to use my authority over people sensibly and honorably. Prosperity and conflict seemed to appear naturally in my life, though I attempted to overcome my conflicting issues and rise to justice as a leader. I passed away at the old age of 82 in 1204. I have been described as having pure morals, true and honest virtues, always working to improve, and gaining and maintaining power throughout my time. I am Eleanor of Aquitaine, the most influential and powerful woman of medieval times.